Concerns over a possible attack in Saudi Arabia have this weekend's Crown Jewel event status up in the air. We've got an update on WWE's possible emergency contingencies in place for the big premium live event on Saturday. Cody Rhodes gives an update on his WWE recovery from a torn pectoral tendon. Several NXT superstars have been released, and we've got some updates on the reasoning behind one specifically. R-Truth seemingly has been injured last night on NXT. Scripps, we've got the latest on that mystery tease on last night's show. Plus, the Raw ratings this week do not look good. Once again, going down to one of the lowest numbers of the year. Dark Side of the Ring, we've got an update on that show. Plus, Women's Tag Team Championships will be on the line this coming Saturday at Crown Jewel if the event does indeed go ahead. Becky Lynch is set to appear on NBC's Young Rock. Dominic Dijak is on his way back to WWE NXT. And Ava Raine speaks on her latest NXT revelation. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of WWE. And as you just saw during that intro there, we've got so many stories to get into. We've got a jam-packed show today. So let's get straight into the stories, starting with something really, really serious here, and something that I think people are going to be talking about for the next few days, as we're, 3 or 4 days removed from, or away rather, from Crown Jewel airing in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, WWE's latest premium live event, and there is some issues about whether the event actually is even going to go ahead. So this is, again, a developing story, so we'll have to wait and see on this one, but the Saudi Arabian government is warning that Iran is preparing an imminent attack within the kingdom, which has resulted in the Saudi military, along with US regional forces, being put on an elevated alert level. However, the WWE event planned for this weekend in the Saudi capital of Riyadh is still scheduled to take place. Now, this comes from an article from the Wall Street Journal, who reported Iran was readying a potential attack in Saudi Arabia and Erbil, Iraq, where US troops are based. The Saudis did not provide specific details on the possible Iranian actions, and the Biden administration said it's ready to respond if an attack occurred. Iran has been besieged by domestic unrest, with massive protests following the September death of a young woman who was arrested by the nation's morality police for not wearing a head covering. Iran has accused the US, Saudi Arabia, and Israel of encouraging the demonstrations. The Biden administration is said to be taking the Saudi report seriously, with a National Security Council spokesperson stating that the White House is, quote, in constant contact through military and intelligence channels with the Saudis. We will not hesitate to act in the defense of our interests and partners in the region, the spokesperson added. Of course, WWE has been staging shows in Saudi Arabia since 2018 and is set to host its 4th Crown Jewel event in the Saudi capital of Riyadh on Saturday. The scheduled main event will see Roman Reigns defend the undisputed WWE Universal Championship against YouTuber and social media influencer Logan Paul. So because of that, a lot of people were saying, well, what does that mean? I mean, that sounds, of course, very serious. You know me, we don't really get political here on the show, but certainly threats of an attack and the US being on alert and the attack alerts being raised an extra level, that would certainly lead a lot to question about the status of really what's going on about it. And according to a new report from PW Insider, after speaking to several at WWE, Crown Jewel is still set to go forward this Saturday in Riyadh, and WWE already has, quote, security protocols and emergency contingencies in place for any issues. PW Insider also noted that WWE is hopeful all will be fine. We do also have an update with possibly some stars' travel plans, actually confirming that the event is set to go ahead. Rhea Ripley popped up by Twitter to shout out fans as she tweeted, quote, see you soon, Saudi, with her signature scales emoji that accompanies her faction Judgment Day. Well, obviously, Ripley wasn't saying that she was currently on an airplane and things can change quickly. The comment comes at a time when some fans are questioning or whether or not the event will proceed as planned. Judgment Day, of course, announced to be participating in a big match against the OC in that 6-person tag team match. Judgment Day have the upper hand because of Rhea Ripley seemingly. The OC have been looking for an equalizer, but certainly it would appear that as of today, or possibly tomorrow, the WWE crew and the WWE talent are still planning to travel out to Saudi Arabia, and that's kind of the latest on it. I'll have to be honest, and again, I'm not going to speak like an expert on the situation because I'm not, and I never want to be one of those people, especially with politics. But I don't want to be one of those people that comes on here and speaks to things that I don't know a lot about. My paramount concern, and I think it's the same with WWE and it's the same with everyone, is the safety of everyone involved, not just the WWE superstars, but the fans, the crew, everyone in that region. And once you hear stuff like that, it's obviously a massive, massive, massive concern. It's a massive worry. My initial reaction was, even prior to reading the reports about what WWE were going to do in reaction to this, my initial reaction was, well, I think WWE will go ahead unless they receive any word from the US, and it would probably, I would assume, come from the US State Department or the US, National Defense Security Council, whatever it may be, from the Pentagon, would get in touch with those at WWE to say, don't go ahead with this event. We've had some credible information, or we've got some credible intelligence that something is going to happen, something is being planned, and you're not safe. And I would hope, and I would think at this stage, when you're talking about subject matters really serious like this, I would hope that they would have been constantly in touch, or people from the government would have been constantly in touch with them to let them know whether it's safe or not to participate in that event. Because I saw Dave Meltzer say, and I don't agree with this, he said, well, it's only a wrestling event. If something were to happen, why would they be interested in a wrestling event? And it's not necessarily a wrestling event, it's a large public gathering, isn't it? That's the issue, is you're going to have a stadium full of, I don't know how many people will be in there, but let's say 40, 50, 60,000 people in there. That's an issue. That's an issue when it comes. That's always an issue when it comes to a security threat anyway, let alone when there's credible intelligence that some kind of attack could possibly be planned. So the key and most important thing is the safety of everyone involved: performers, staff, fans, general public, you name it, everyone there. And I would hope, certainly, that if WWE got any information to say it wasn't safe to do this event, then they would pivot and they would go to something else. It would certainly be frustrating as a fan that's looking forward to the event, but ultimately, at the end of the day, it's just pro wrestling, and that's just what it is. It's just entertainment. When you're talking about people's health and when you're talking about people's safety, that's always paramount. These people have families and these people have lives. So hopefully, it's just that. It's just intelligence, and everything can go ahead as planned, and everything's fine, and it goes off without hitch. And then if they do get any kind of word prior to Saturday that it's not safe, then they get straight on a plane and come back home and they're safe and they do something else. But we'll have to wait and see about that. As I mentioned, I think this might be a developing story between now and Saturday, or it might be nothing at all. We'll have to wait and see. If we get any updates, of course, we'll talk about it here on the channel. Cody Rhodes is on his way back to WWE. He's on the road to recovery, and he's provided an update on his recovery process, and he admits that things haven't been easy. Rhodes has been out of action since June. The American Nightmare suffered a torn pectoral tendon, which required surgery. His last match took place at the Hell in a Cell Premium Live event in a victory over Seth Rollins inside the aforementioned structure. In a recent post to Twitter, Rhodes answered the question of how his recovery has been going. In doing so, he made it clear that it hasn't exactly been smooth sailing. It's effing awful, Rhodes admitted. Every day we dig into the muscle, then I scream. Half the time I spot a tear flowing. It's a near impossible task getting a body part that has been shredded to 100%, or hell, even 90%. But on the worst days, I have the best reason not to tap out. This was followed by pictures of Cody's daughter with wife Brandy Rhodes. So Cody's still in physical therapy. There have been updates, or there have been speculation and rumors that the aim for him is to be back around January time, and I think the general assumption is that he could return at the Royal Rumble. In the Royal Rumble, he could even win, certainly, the Royal Rumble match. I don't expect to see Cody now before the beginning of next year. I mean, he's still saying in physical therapy that it's still pain, and realistically, we're looking at what? We're looking at the month of November, the month of December, and the Royal Rumble's usually towards the end of January, so we're looking at about 3 months. If Cody Rhodes is going to be back come that time, and that's a short time frame, and if he's still struggling at the moment, I mean, it's pro wrestling, so everything's a bit kayfabe, a bit work, so we'll have to wait and see if Rhodes is going to be back in time. I expect him to be back in time. Even if he's not 100% ready to go by the Royal Rumble, he can still get in that match, throw some people out, win the match, and then he doesn't have to wrestle until WrestleMania at the very latest. So he can have some extra months of recovery, and I'm sure even when he gets back, he'll still be doing some physical therapy and recovery. But I guess the expectation is that he'll be back come the Royal Rumble, but we'll have to wait and see. There were some NXT releases yesterday, not massive names, it must be said, but WWE has trimmed its NXT roster, releasing 5 developmental talents. PW Insider confirmed the news and revealed the identities of the released performers. Perhaps the most notable name on the list is Cody Rhodes, who signed with WWE back in August of last year and had been a regular on NXT programming as part of the Chase U Act. On the most recent episode of NXT prior to last night, Hayward didn't show up for class in a Chase U backstage segment, with the implication being that Duke Hudson was responsible. It now seems as though this was Hayward being written out of NXT for good. Sloane Jacobs was also released by the company. The 19-year-old earned a spot at the Performance Center as a recruit following a late 2021 tryout and made several appearances on the main NXT show as well as NXT Level Up. Jacobs recently saw in-ring action at an NXT live event this past weekend. Other released talent are Erica Yan, who was last seen back in September, Damaris Griffin, who often teamed with Bison Montana in losing efforts on NXT Level Up, and Ruth Fenn, who was largely used as an enhancement talent on NXT, NXT Level Up, and 205 Live. So they were the names certainly released, and Cody Rhodes, as I mentioned, was probably the most notable person being released. He released a video on social media that said the following: "What up, Brodies? It's your boy Cody Rhodes, or Brody Booker, here to tell you I was just released from WWE. I'm hurt, I'm embarrassed, and Brodies, I'm just down bad. For the past 18 months, Andre Chase University and wrestling have been my whole life. But I'm no stranger to adversity. Adversity is something that has come up my whole life, and I've always found a way to get on top. I'll do it again. I'm Brody Booker. I'm here to stay." Now, it has been reported as well when it comes to Cody Rhodes, which, as I mentioned, was a name that kind of stood out of that list a little bit. There might be more to the story of Hayward's release. Brian Alvarez on Wrestling Observer Live provided some details, saying, quote, "All I will say, because I don't know all of the details, but there was stuff going on. I guess the easiest way to describe it is apparently Cody was a handful. So it wasn't just, well, let's get rid of this guy or whatever, but I did hear from multiple people that it wasn't just, we're going to cut some folks, we're going to cut this person who was right in the middle of a storyline. There was more to Cody's story. That's really all I can say because I don't know what the more is, but you know, you got a bunch of guys and whatever, and they're in Florida and there's a loop and God only knows what can happen." So the term Cody was a handful seems to indicate some kind of backstage behavioral issue or some kind of stuff going on outside of the ring, outside of the Performance Center. We don't know, but certainly, again, his name was certainly a name that kind of stood out on that list because he was regularly on NXT television as part of an ongoing act, and I guess we might find out more. You know, chances are in the coming days and weeks we'll probably find out more what they mean by was a handful, but it would imply some kind of backstage issue there. R-Truth was on NXT last night and it didn't end well, unfortunately. It was quite actually scary to see this happen in person because R-Truth apparently suffered a lower leg injury during his match against Grayson Waller on last night's episode of NXT. During the early stages of the match, Truth attempted a senton, a tope over the top rope with Waller in position to take the bump on the outside and catch him. However, Truth, obviously, this wasn't on Grayson Waller. I saw some people trying to blame Waller on social media, and that's not fair at all because Truth evidently slipped. He kind of caught his leg on the top rope, so he landed on the floor and kind of on the apron as well, barely touching Waller at all. Truth immediately clutched his leg as WWE cut to a commercial break. During the commercial break, the picture-in-picture remained focused on Waller. He returned to the ring and spent several minutes mocking the crowd at the Performance Center. When NXT returned to the air, it was announced that Truth was unable to continue the match and was helped to the back by WWE medical personnel. Waller then used the opportunity to generate more heat for his character. He cut a promo. He even performed a spinneroonie to taunt Booker T as he gloated about his victory. It was quite funny, actually. There's a clip on social media of Booker T like turning to Vic Joseph, which was funny. But what wasn't funny is Truth's injury. Truth's actually been appearing on television quite a lot recently. He's had promo segments with the likes of Baron Corbin, Johnny Gargano, The Miz, and others. And it was a shame to see that happen. Hopefully it's not too bad, but hopefully it's just a precaution. But again, it didn't look good. Again, I saw people blame Grayson Waller. I don't think that's fair at all. I thought Truth just, he didn't get the right jump or contact and he clipped the rope and it kind of took away all his momentum. So really horrible to see. And of course, if we get an update on the severity of the injury, we'll talk about it here in a future video. Scripps, there was another Scripps vignette this week. We still have really no idea who this is, but Scripps prepared NXT of his imminent start, or their imminent start, through another mysterious vignette on last night's show. The hooded wrestler, presumably a debuting superstar, was seen spray painting his name on the walls of the Performance Center as another voicemail with an altered voice played in the background. This time around, Scripps implied that they had been ignored by WWE higher-ups and possibly denied a job in the promotion. You can you can screen my calls, but you cannot screen my fury, they said. One by one, you all shall fall, so just let it happen, as it's written on the walls. Coming to NXT almost feels like home, because inside those ropes, the canvas will be the place how I express how I feel in my bones. I will leave my mark, and I warned you on my imminent start. Sincerely, Scripps. Again, people are buzzing about who this could be. Some people suggested it could be T-Bar, Dominik Dijakovic, but he's had another vignette, so it seems unlikely. We'll have to wait and see. Certainly, we'll have to wait and see who it's going to be. Let me know who you think it is in the comment section below. Raw was on Halloween night on Monday, and the ratings, once again, were not good due to strong competition, it must be said, but the ratings were not great. WWE Raw not only had to deal with the NFL on Monday night, but Halloween as well, and viewership saw effects of both. WrestleNomics has shared viewership information for Halloween night, and Raw on October 31st received a total average viewership of 1.501 million viewers, down 8% from last week's number of 1.640 million viewers. Now, the 18 to 49 demographic, that key demo, was down significantly for the Red brand, as Monday's episode was watched by an average of 470,000 viewers age 18 to 49, totaling a 0.36 18 to 49 rating. That's a 19% drop from the week before. This is Raw's lowest overall viewership since the May 30 episode, and get this, the lowest 18 to 49 demographic number of the year. The lowest 18 to 49 rating of 2022 altogether. Worse than that, this is actually the program's third lowest total viewership and second lowest demographic number in its history on the USA Network. Let me repeat that once again. It's the third lowest total viewership and second lowest demographic number in the history of the USA Network. Despite all of that, though, and then it's a big negative, but there is some there's every cloud, right? The Raw actually remained fairly steady in the rankings. For cable originals, the key demographic was 7th, and in broadcast primetime, it ranked 11th. Monday Night Football, which featured a divisional rivalry game between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Cleveland Browns, dominated television with over 10 million viewers and a total 18 to 49 rating of 3.27. Going back a year, both viewership numbers are down for Raw. The November 1st, 2021 episode was watched by 1.689 million viewers, up 11% from Monday night. Last year's rating was a 0.47, which is 23% higher than Monday's episode. And it's not as if the episode on Monday was bad and it lacked star power. You had Roman Reigns make a rare appearance on the Red brand. Brock Lesnar showed up as well. You had a Women's Tag Team Championship main event. I don't really have the answer. Yes, you can talk about the NFL, but they have the NFL to deal with every week. I don't know if it was because it was Halloween as well, but that's not the first time Raw's gone live on a Halloween night. I can't answer that. I really can't. I don't know if it was a reflection of last week. Last week's episode wasn't good, and maybe people thought, last week wasn't good, and there's nothing really to tune in for. Then I guess this week, even though Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar are going to be there, I don't know. Maybe it was just because of the football, but those numbers are not good, and WWE certainly getting their tail handed to them by their NFL competition, and we'll have to wait and see how they respond to next week, what the fallout of Crown Jewel will be. Dark Side of the Ring was a program that a lot of people liked watching. We've got an update on the future of Dark Side of the Ring because, of course, co-creators Evan Husney and Jason Eisner have since helped launch the Tales of the Territories on Vice TV, which has led to some speculation that Dark Side was cancelled. During a recent appearance on the two-man Power Trip of Wrestling podcast, Husney provided an update on the future of Dark Side of the Ring. Husney said, quote, "Dark Side is in the works. There's still some things to work out. Can't say anything official yet. We're in talks right now. There should be an official word, wink, wink, nod, nod soon. You know, we hope, but basically nothing we can say definitively right now. We aren't done with the show in terms of what popular thought may be or what the rumor and innuendo is in the wrestling newsletter circuit. but he's mentioned about, obviously, they pivoted to that Tales of the Territories, which, of course, The Rock and Danny Garcia with $7 Productions are executive producing. And there had been this rumor about WWE putting pressure on A&E to cancel Vice's Dark Side of the Ring. As I mentioned, there was this rumor that WWE had pressured A&E in an attempt to get Vice to cancel the series, and Evan Husney has kind of addressed that. He said, quote, some rumor about how like WWE was putting pressure on A&E to not, let our shows, like it's too controversial, so we're going to cancel it. But, Vice would never do that because it's their most successful show. If Dark Side wasn't successful, I could see not doing another season for sure. Season 3 had some controversial moments, such as the plane ride from hell episode, which affected stars such as Ric Flair and Tommy Dreamer. Flair's assault allegation resurfaced when the documentary came out, and Dreamer was suspended from Impact following his comments, but Husney revealed that he could see why people may believe the rumors may be true. I can see where people would put 2 and 2 together. Any form of conspiracy is just always the most boring answer, or it's just the most boring. It's not all an elaborate conspiracy, and in this case, the boring answer is we just made another show for a second. So they're saying it's just the Tales of the Territory thing. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure WWE might put pressure on A&E to be like, hey, this show's getting us quite a lot of heat at the moment. But at the same time, as he mentions, you can't overestimate how important that it's become a franchise. It's not just Dark Side of the Ring. It started with Dark Side of the Ring, and I've watched all of the Dark Sides because there's so many spin-offs now. There's Dark Side, I think, of the NFL, Dark Side of Sports. There's Dark Side of Comedy. There was Dark Side of the 90s. I'm sure they're doing probably other ones. That's how successful it's been. So I agree. I would expect to see the show back, honestly. Speaking of Crown Jewel, earlier on, Women's Tag Team Championship match has been announced for the show, and it's been announced that we'll see a rematch of Monday's episode of Raw. We'll see Asuka and Alexa Bliss defend the newly won WWE Women's Tag Team Championships against Io Sky and Dakota Kai. I don't expect to see a title change, but I guess you never know. They've played hot potato with the championship a bit, so we're going to get a title match there in Saudi Arabia. Becky Lynch is stepping into the world of acting because it's been reported that former SmackDown and Raw Women's Champion Becky Lynch will be portraying, easy for me to say, pop icon Cyndi Lauper in the Season 3 premiere of Young Rock. In the episode, a young Dewey attends the premiere party of Cyndi Lauper's The Goonies Are Good Enough music video, which featured several WWF superstars, including Captain Lou Albano, Wendy Richter, The Iron Sheik, Freddie Blassie, and Roddy Piper. Vince McMahon also hosted the premiere party. Of course, Lauper was so instrumental with WWE, the Rock and Wrestling Connection. Lynch, of course, is out of action with a shoulder injury, but certainly I would assume this was filmed prior to that. So it'll be interesting to see, because when I saw this, when you see the comparison, you can see it on the screen right there of Cyndi Lauper in the 80s and Becky Lynch. Certainly the looks fairly similar. The loud red hair, that makes sense, but you've got, talk about two very distinct accents between those two. Cyndi Lauper has that proper New York, New Jersey accent that's very distinctive and very tough to do. Becky Lynch has a thick Irish accent. So I don't know if it's just going to be a case of Becky Lynch not speaking, but why would you have Becky Lynch on the show to not speak? So I don't know what they're going to do with that one. I am very curious, to say the least. Dominik Dijakovic, T-Bar, whatever you want to call him, is on his way back to NXT, and it would appear he's getting a new name change. Prior to the latest vignette airing on NXT last night, a report from PW Insider stated that Dijakovic is internally listed as Donovan Dijak, a name he was using on The Independents and in Ring of Honor. Dijak looks to be returning sometime in the next few weeks. He's received teaser videos at Halloween Havoc and in the episodes of NXT since then. Burning the T-Bar mask implies that the Retribution character is officially gone, thank the Lord, and the Donovan Dijak name is a bit shorter than Dominik Dijakovic, and Dijak is an easier name to be featured on merch, etc., etc. So he's going back to that name, which is cool. I'm surprised, because WWE hates using names that were used in the past on indie scenes. Certainly that was a Vince McMahon edict that he pushed back into full effect last year, but Dijak's back, so it'll be interesting to see that. Finally, Ava Raine made her NXT debut last week, speaking of The Rock, and she's broken her silence on joining the Schism this week on NXT. She's pushed back about if she's been brainwashed or anything like that, addressing her controversial promo detailing her decision to join Schism. Ava Raine blended reality with storyline in explanation, which is always the best thing to do in pro wrestling. Noting her real injury during training at the Performance Center, she noted that it was Joe Gacy who reached out to her during her time of immobility, providing an opportunity for all of the members of Schism to speak. The segment was still justifiably focused on Ava Raine, who was sporting one red contact lens as part of her new look. Schism continues their feud with Cameron Grimes, as the segment also revealed that Joe Gacy would be taking on Grimes one final time on next week's edition of NXT. So I thought the promo was fine. There's still a way to go, but she's still very young, and we'll have to wait and see how it goes with her. But there you go, guys. That's the latest WWE news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Let me know your thoughts on today's WWE news stories in the comment section below, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.